Hello, everyone. Hope you had a good weekend and didn't wash away, but we needed the rain, right? Kind of a trying weekend trying to get in golf tournaments and all that good stuff. And since we didn't have chapel this morning, I thought I'd just do like a really quick devotional thought for you. And it comes out of that scene from West Wing that is part of this update. And it's called Shibboleth. And Shibboleth is this understanding of a word that sort of was showing the truest identity of the folks from Ephraim who had been in battle with the Gileadites, and they were trying to disguise who they really were. And because of their dialect, they would, instead of saying SH at the beginning of the word, they could only say an S. So instead of Shibboleth, they said Shibboleth. And it revealed that they were a fraud. They weren't who they said they were. And so if you watch the scene, you see that there are Chinese believers trying to get out of the country because they've been persecuted. And there are some who think that maybe they're lying about their faith just to get out. And so President Bartlett decides he's going to have a test to kind of see, are they really believers? And he kind of walks through with this Christian Chinese believer who comes into his office, and he starts walking through this reciting of facts and checklist kind of mentality. And finally the guy says, Mr. President, our truest identity is not in a reciting of facts. It is that we've been justified by faith. That in faith in Jesus alone, it is our truest identity. And before you confuse that a little bit, faith is not simply this. It's not simply this idea of having a mental assent to something. Faith is carrying with it this idea that you and I put our complete weight and trust into someone. That justified by faith means that I've got complete faith in what Jesus has done, and that anything I do to try to add to that is superfluous. It's meaningless. That my true Shibboleth, my truest identity, is by faith in Him. What's your truest identity? I've told you guys a bunch. I grew up in Northwest Georgia. I'm a hillbilly by nature, just who I am. And while still very Southern, if you had known me when I was a kid growing up as a teenager, you would have heard a different accent. And I can remember that some of the ways that I would say words that would end in L, because you would drop your L's. So if someone had said to me back then, you know, you're going to marry a girl someday and her name is Jill. Now, for her, that might have been her worst nightmare, because she was going to hear, instead of her name pronounced Jill the rest of her life, she would have heard Jill, because there's no L in that. You just drop it off. And so ultimately, it's sort of kind of who I am from the region I'm from. And the way we'd use I's, we would say right or night or tight or something like, I mean, just this shrill kind of high-pitched kind of pronunciation. It sort of revealed who we were, where were we from. What's your truest identity? How do you say your Shibboleth? Is it, I've been baptized, I'm a member of a church, pretty good guy? And while all those things might have some importance and significance and purpose, your ultimate Shibboleth is not in what you do in your checklist. Your ultimate Shibboleth is you are justified by faith alone. So tonight, before you go to bed tonight, why don't you say a prayer and just say, Lord, I want my Shibboleth to be always and only justified by faith in the finished work of God in Jesus Christ. You guys have a great week. We'll see you next weekend.